back to Forbes Sports Money. I'm Bob Lorenz. Padel ball, paddle ball, paddle tennis, whatever you want to call it, the sport is sweeping Europe. Recently, Michael Ozanian sat down with Fabrice Pastore and Ike Franco to discuss their desire to bring the action-packed sport to the U.S. market. Here's part one of their interview.
Can you explain the rules of Padel and actually the complexities of the game a little bit?
Yeah, well, the score is like tennis, but instead of making juice and advantage, we do a golden point to make it shorter, because I think it's important that the games are not too long for people not to get bored. And then the ball has always to hit the ground, and then it can hit the fence or can hit the glass wall. So it makes it, when you have a passing shot in tennis, the ball is gone. Here, when you have a passing shot, you continue. So that's what makes it so athletic. I mean, you have to be in a perfect shape to play it.
Ike, why the rebrand to the A1 Padel Tour?
We needed to create a brand that would allow the consumer to connect with it, and also have the ability to create this awareness. We want to create an emblem for the sport. Just like the NFL has an emblem, the NFL shield, MLB has the bat as silhouette. Well, Padel has A1 paddle now as a new emblem.
What's the decision process in terms of the 2023 tour in the United States in terms of locations?
First and foremost, we want to solidify key markets, New York City being one that we've identified, Miami being another, and Las Vegas being the third. We have plans for 24 to expand in the United States, in other cities. The demand is there. It's a matter of building it, as we said. Most important is bringing clinics to these cities where having the audience be able to play weeks before the tournament is played.
Exhibitions are important too, right? I mean, for people to understand how's the game, you have to watch it.
We plan on bringing in pros to give lessons and have kids and young adults and older adults to want to play the sport and get taught the sport.
The build out into the United States, I imagine, is, you're going to, put on clinics and have demos and show, build courts and all that. I imagine that's going to cost a lot of money. Where's that money going to come from?
Well, it's going to be coming through various sources. Our group, A1 Paddle, will look to grow the sport from the relationships that we develop with universities, with school systems, to create that bucket of courts that are needed for kids to participate. On the private side, we'll strategically build courts around the tri-state area for this market, and in other parts of the country, we will look to partner up with developers who understand what we're looking to accomplish in the sport. And most important, to create a vibe when people go into a paddle club. It's about having an experience. It's about feeling good about playing the sport, and it's social, which is very important. It's a competitive sport that is social. And most people don't always connect that in sports. This is one sport that has been able to achieve it.
Content distribution. What's it been like in Europe, and what do you see happening in the United States?
I'll let you talk about Europe in terms of, we've had relationships with ESPN.
Yes.
And you could talk a little bit about what we've done in South America. And what we plan on doing in the US is really broadening the scope, creating an awareness of the sport in many different ways, in all different aspects of the digital world, and also with the right networks that we need to be building and creating awareness.
I think the fantastic part is that we are born 2 years ago, and we are shaping everything as it needs to be done. We're not in a hurry, and as I said, we want the right people to work with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like somebody like Disney Plus, right? That they're just gobbling up content distribution rights. I think that they would really be interested in streaming a sport like this, which which seemingly fit a demographic you're trying to hit, which is the young demographic.
Yeah, it's a very interesting.
You know, that's
It's a very young demographic because we're a very young players average age tour. So we are 24, 25 years old in average. So I think that brings also a very, very young demographic from all over. I'm not a social media guy, so for me TikTok wasn't important, but it is. Obviously we have TikTok and we have everything now, but it wasn't in my mind as important, and we have a huge demand of that. So it's all new. Everything is new.
You're the commercial expert. Are you also have to be careful? I'm looking at cryptocurrency and thinking about that. And there were a lot of teams and leagues that got naming rights and other types of sponsorship money a year or so ago. Miami Heat is a prime example. Boom, crypto crashed. There was a big FTX scandal. It disappeared. Do you find yourself looking at that and saying, I'm going to stick with the long game and go with very long established family name brands?
I'm very old school. It has to be tangible.
Thank God.
And that's where we both get along great.
If you can't touch it,
Can't
feel
touch
it, or read
feel
it.
it. I print things sometimes just to say I looked at it and held it in my hand. I apologize for wasting paper, but that's part of my. It's all about being authentic, and there's no way to just build something without putting the right components of the blueprint in place in order for something to have stability and grow.
There's going to be a commercial side to this. There's going to be merchandising, I imagine, eventually broadcasting, distribution. How's the introduction of the sport been going into the United States?
So there's definitely a need to create grassroots, which really means building in communities, creating availability of courts to be developed, both private and in the commercial sector and in the school system, with high schools having courts developed, YMCAs having courts developed, universities creating these assets that the student body could play. Once somebody gets involved in playing the sport, they're definitely addicted to playing. And that's what's lacking in the US today. There's not enough courts for the amount of players that would desire to play.
How has it been growing outside of the United States?
Well, you're late.
What else is new?
No, but I mean, Europe, Africa, South America are already huge places where almost all the countries have it. So I think United States, when it's going to start this year, I think it's going to storm the whole nation.
What makes you think it'll be successful in the United States, where there's just so much competition for sports, whether it be tennis or ping pong?
I'm going to go back like 25 years when people were talking about soccer, and the word soccer, which is known in Europe as football. And there were so many kids joining these soccer leagues, but yet it didn't come to the forefront in the national level, on the professional level. It didn't come for a while. Today, I would say the United States is heavily vested into soccer, and you see what's happening around the country in the participation of soccer. PADEL will have that effect. PADEL will grow in major numbers, and it's all about accessibility to courts. That's why we're looking at it from the community level, the grassroots level. We need to make sure that we have available courts time for people to play. Today, if you want to get on a court in New York City, anywhere in the tri-state area, or even in Miami, it's a couple of $100 per hour, almost $200 to $240 per hour.
It's huge.
And there's never available time. So how do you play? That's partly why this sport is going to emerge as a real dynamic growth sport.
What has been the ability to get top talent from the U.S. to participate in the tour? In other words, is it getting more shifting people that, let's say, would have traditionally played tennis and been on that? Or are these just athletes that weren't doing anything like tennis and just said, this sport could be for me?
In the US, it's from tennis, no doubt, because you don't have the coaching, you don't have the right coaching. And I will add to what Ike said, that we will provide also coaching, which is very, very important. It's key to learn the sport right. But yes, the American players that come to the tour are coming from tennis and have adapted. So you have, in Miami, you have quite a lot of clubs, and there is average coaching over there. So I think that was their way to learn and to become professional, and now they're playing the tour.
What have been the biggest obstacles you faced?
No obstacles.
I think the only obstacle that we would face is awareness, is building the awareness. It's not an obstacle, it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of laying the blueprint across the country where we would invest in the communities to be able to have as many courts for people to participate in the sport. That is the key. Once you play the sport, you don't stop playing it.
So let me give you an example. Sorry, Sweden, in 3 years, 5,000 courts. France, when they saw that, in 2 years they built 3,000 courts. So what I'm saying is, it was easy and no really obstacles because all the countries, Portugal, Italy,
So
Spain, so everything was and never stopped growing. Just to give you a number, Deloitte made a report that 1 billion euro has been already achieved in court construction. It's
Over what, 2 years, 3 years?
no,
or just
no. Since the beginning of the booming, 5 years maybe, but 1 billion euros in not in sales, in construction.
Court construction.
Court construction.
So
then you sell it.
So just almost 2
huge.
months ago, there was only 100 courts in the United States. By 2025, there'll be over 10,000 courts in this country. And that's not just because of A1 Paddle, it's because of the sport itself evolving. A1 Paddle will have a very big stamp on that because that's our goal, but the country will have access to it, and that's when it really will explode.
All right, so let's go out 5 years from now. If you want to look at cumulative revenue for all of A1 Padel in the United States, give me a ballpark figure on what you think the revenue would be.
Very difficult. I mean, then there is something
Let
important.
me say this, whatever I'm going to say, it's going to be more than what I say it is, because we really, when something hits in the United States, it usually is a multiple of what's happening in Europe. And in Europe, it's really booming.
So could it be 100 million in the U.S.?
Easily.
In 5 years?
5 years will be way more than that.
Oh, I think way more.
Way more than that.